A very warm welcome to you all. And it is said that nutrition is key to global pandemic resilience, and nutrition science is one of the few industries that saw exponential growth during the pandemic. It is driven by increased demand and spurred by various issues like obesity, diabetes, mental health, lifestyle change, and of course, diseases caused by this mutation of the virus. I believe that the next decade is projected to be bright for qualified professionals in the health and nutrition space. Interestingly, the employment data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics reveals that the estimated 2.6 million jobs will be added to the healthcare field, and 65% of the country's top 20 careers would be in the medical, health, and nutritional field. Now, the pandemic has starkly illustrated the importance of public health and nutrition science. Healthcare professionals have played and continue to play a crucial role throughout the ongoing pandemic as new demands emerge with the outbreak. Now, there is a rising need for respiratory therapists, epidemiologists, telehealth specialists, and other professionals in this space. Today, tremendous opportunities for career success and advancement exist within the healthcare industries, buoyed by the increasing demand for shortage of qualified professionals. The medical and health sectors are divided into numerous specialty areas, offering prospective students the opportunity to pursue a diverse array of academic and career avenues. We have amidst us Dr. Ranjani Harish, who is a senior scientist and head, Department of Translational Research, Madras Diabetes Research Foundation, Chennai. Her research interests include epidemiology, public health, translational and implementational science, with focus on obesity, diabetes, and CVD risk. She has completed the NIH Fogarty Fellowship Program on the mobile health at the Fogarty International Center, Bethesda, the United States of America. As avid researcher who is involved in the design and implementation of several projects in the field of diabetes and obesity prevention at school, at home, and worksite settings. Her current project, India Works, is being implemented across 10 work sites in India. Now, to name a few, some of the projects she has completed include yoga and health in adults and adolescents, primary prevention of adult diabetes, and prevalence and incidence of obesity and diabetes in children and adolescents. She has also delivered over 100 lectures on the role of healthy lifestyle in the prevention, management of chronic diseases across various platforms, several student talks on research methodologies and qualitative study design. She has been invited as a faculty for national and international conferences. Today, Dr. Ranjani Harish will share valuable inputs on career guidance and clarity to students on how to explore the various career paths in the nutrition science industry. She will also share the pathways for success and an overview of the employment outlook and earning potential, because that is what, parents are more keen, right? For students interested in this nutritional science degree and career. Now over to Dr. Ranjani. So while I'm curious to know what was your journey, doctor, how do you get into this field? And I would also want your opinion, because with this epidemic, is this a driving factor and urgent need for trained professionals in this field in India? And also, has there been an increase in students opting for this field rather than the conventional medical field?
Thank you, Rama. Thank you for having me. And it's always nice to be able to ignite a few minds on this profession, because there are a lot of myths and fallacies around this line. And so I'm more than happy to, clear those myths and fallacies. And if I could, even motivate a few kids to take this up and see their potentials, eventually realize the potential, I think my job will be done. So
Right.
coming to how I came here, I mean, again, they'd say it's all about, I believe a lot in serendipity. And I think this line was not something I would say I was born, thinking I'm going to be a nutritionist or a public health worker. Of course, we went through our phases, and I wanted to be a doctor. That I was sure of. And what happened in 10th grade is, I'm from Mumbai, and so I'm born and brought up in Mumbai. And in 10th grade, when we were studying, Marathi was compulsory. So
Ah,
my third language was Marathi, and I lost quite a bit of. I mean, I thought I did my paper well, and there's a lot of luck in the matriculation in the state board
absolutely.
exams. So me and my friend who actually studied at the same time, and she was very supportive. There's this line in Three Idiots, you feel more bad when your best friend gets more than you. So it was
Absolutely.
that kind of phase where we studied together, and she got more, and she never wanted to do science, and I wanted to do. And because of that Marathi marks, my kind of percentage dipped. I got a little less than 80. I just got on 78.
Mm.
Whereas at that time, 84 and all that was required for Ruya, and those were the colleges you would want to go for science. And whatever, we didn't know much, so I was really dejected, and I was like, oh, I can't be a doctor, and I didn't know much about PhD and these alternate lines then.
Mhm.
And as I said, it's because of serendipities, because my sister was coming from Ahmedabad in a train, and she happened to see that there's this something called home science,
Mhm.
and you can do that, and she can tell your sister she can still have her options open. So she came to me and she told me home science, and obviously the immediate reaction is like, what, you want me to cook and sit at home? Is it, what is home science? I don't need to be taught to be cleaning and cooking, and that's not
Right.
what I want to do. And there was all that happened, and then I started reading up, and she said, why don't you just go and see? So there was SNDT and Nirmala Niketan at that time. SNDT is a deemed university in Bombay,
Yeah.
and Nirmala Niketan is Mumbai University.
Mm.
And so I went and found out what exactly it is. And funny to the name, I still believe, I keep saying, people who are working in this field, that the name has to be changed, because it's very
Right.
deceptive. So
Right.
people think home science means cooking. So typically,
Right.
you would have, I mean, without being biased, and I have a teenage daughter, so I have to be very particular about the words I use, because she's
Mhm.
always accusing me as a, you can't be racist, you can't be sexist. So
Absolutely.
so without being that, but I've just tried to say is, at that point of time, there were a lot of Gujarati girls who used to take up home science,
Okay.
because they wanted to go to college and they wanted to study, and their parents would be, you're getting married after 12, or you're
Mhm.
getting married after graduation. So this was something they did, because even their parents thought they're going to go and learn cooking and cleaning,
Right.
so this is one nice thing for a girl to do. You
Mhm.
go. But actually, when you go in, you realize, see, 11th and 12th, though the subject says home science, is firstly, it's an allied science. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah.
So in allied science is what people who do allied sciences are who become allied professionals later in life. A
Right.
doctor cannot do everything. You
Right.
need allied professionals to support them to do anything, to get a job done. So, I
Like a
mean, and we are talking
radiologist or
about the
a
physician. Yeah, you
right.
need everybody, right? They're all allied. So, radiologist is still a doctor, right? He still has to
Right.
go through a
Correct.
medical degree. But
Mhm.
allied professionals are, whether it's a physiotherapist, whether it's a
Correct.
nutritionist, a dietitian, a diabetes educator, a nurse, a eye technician,
Right.
even a clinical assistant who assists the doctor.
Mhm.
They all need come under allied professionals. So,
Mm.
mind you, they're all healthcare workers, and
Right.
they're all very, very specific fields. There's work to be done. They're very specific things that a person needs to do. So coming back to that, what you do in 11th and 12th when you take up home science in these colleges,
Mhm.
it's actually funny, because the subjects I had were English and Hindi,
Mhm.
psychology and sociology,
Mhm.
and chemistry and biology. So basically, I
Okay.
left maths and physics. So people who hate these two and don't want to become an engineer, it's actually a
Yeah.
very ideal course to
Right.
take, because you don't have math, you don't have physics.
Mhm.
And typically, I was always good in chem and bio, physics and math. I had a problem with math, so automatically physics also used to be an issue.
Right.
But these were the stuff that you take in 11th and 12th. And that's so. From tell me, from which angle are you cooking and cleaning and home science in 11th grade? These are the six
Right.
subjects. Then after that, in graduation, what you do is, it's a composite thing. So they teach you subjects which involve resource management. So basically HR and things, community resource management it's
Mhm.
called. Then you have textiles, which is the whole industry, textile industry, right from warp, weft, kind of what kind of fabric, and then all those kind of things. Interior designing are few of our subjects.
Oh,
There's a lot
okay.
in ecology and environment.
Mm-hmm.
There's economics, and then of course there is, from a nutrition perspective, it's basically just physiology and biochemistry. Okay, which are
Okay.
hardcore subjects even for a doctor. That's
Absolutely.
like your main subjects. So you have physiology, biochemistry. You would have something called ecology and environment, where we learn about the environment and carbon converters. So a little chemistry comes in there.
Mm.
Economics is a full-fledged. Then there is a bit of statistics that comes in along with economics. Then you have a full thing on textiles industry. So there's a whole gamut of one whole subject around textiles.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's of course psychology and sociology is taken up
Absolutely.
further down in
Mm-hmm.
those in the this. And so you have that, and then you have resource management. So a bit of all this industry HR, your management experience starts coming in at first year. So they teach you a few of the management, the different type of industries, corporate, a bit of law. So
Right.
these are the
Oh,
subjects you're
so there
taught in the
is quite a
first year and
varied
second year.
subject. I mean, the domain knowledge that is given to you, right?
Yeah, this is the domain knowledge given in first year and second year.
Mm-hmm.
And then in third year, they give you an option to choose. Of course, these options or these specialities or the specialties have actually become even more diverse. From what I understand from the time I passed out now, the specialties have even more diverse now. And when we were in college and I was doing home science, it was, finally in the third year, you need to choose like how you would do in
Right.
engineering, or you would do in design, in anything, in any field you take, even in law, or if you do,
So
even when you
basically,
become a
you choose a
doctor,
major, right?
you chose a major.
Mm.
So which is 6 subjects of that major, and that major that you get in third year would be around management. One is management, so it's called
Okay.
CRM. That time they used to call it community resource management, which is basically about, you have all HR, you do industry principles, all that. So it's basically around and management principles. A little bit of commerce, I would say a combination of commerce and management comes in there. Then
Okay.
textiles is a full-fledged field. Then textiles is your second major,
Mm-hmm.
where you learn about the industry, you learn about designing, everything around the textiles and clothes and all comes in that.
Mm-hmm.
Third is psychology. Psychology is a full-fledged major.
Okay.
So you do child, adult, criminal, this, that, everything you learn in that. And
Mm.
fourth is nutrition. So these
Oh,
are your 4 majors that you offer to you. So by what they do is, in the first and second year, you learn everything. And then by the third year, you decide which is the major you want, and
okay.
then you take 6 papers on that major. So that's what I used to always say, the home science term is very, very wrong.
Yes.
So there are diploma courses in home science. What
Mhm.
I'm talking about is degree. Now
Yeah.
there are
Yeah.
diploma courses in home science where I understand they teach you also about carving vegetables and presenting. But remember, they teach you all that even in catering. So catering is like one of
Right.
their subjects,
Yes. In the hospitality.
right? Yeah, nobody's teaching you to clean over there. But these
Correct.
are in the hospital. That so the notion and the myth that home science means
Mhm.
gharelu kaam they're teaching you. Nobody teaches you
Right.
gharelu kaam. I mean, if that was the case, all the men would be doing ghar ka kaam, right? So
Yeah. True.
yahan pe to we mean we you learn, it comes naturally, we do it. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what, in essence, home science is, which is the base to take up nutrition later in life. So I think I needed to get that out very clearly.
Right.
And I remember one of the questions you had asked me initially, that's why it became a very girl thing to do, because
Absolutely. Because I see
science,
there is a lot of gender bias, right? I don't see
yeah,
men taking up this because of
yeah.
whatever.
But I'm very happy to say that there are a lot, it is not, to be fair, also only girls were admitted. It was not even open to
Ah,
men.
okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
was not open to boys. Now a lot of boys are taking up this course, just like they're taking up
That's
catering.
really nice to hear.
Lot of people are, because they have realized they go on to do a PhD. You can be a full-fledged dietitian in a very good hospital, and a full clinical dietetics person.
Okay.
So the chief dietitian of Tata Cancer is a male. So
Mhm.
they all come from different back. But so to do this thing, I'm not saying you have to do right from 11th and 12th home science. It just happened. I was also planning to go to Xavier's, do science, and come. But
Mhm.
then I realized they're teaching me here everything I want to do. So it didn't make sense. So I left Xavier's and I came off here itself for the 11th standard. And I said, this is teaching me the 6 subjects I want. So that, the things I'm interested in. And then I
Right.
just continued there. And of course, after the and this is a proper degree course. So after your undergraduation, I finally graduated in food, nutrition, and dietetics. Of course, in bracket, it will say home science, but
Mhm.
then your major comes in, right? It's your main
Right.
major that comes in. And then after that, master's is like a lot. There is just so many things. So even at first year, if you want to join this, you can always do a science degree. So as far as I remember till now, I don't think an arts or a commerce person can take up this right now. It's still open only to a science professional.
Okay.
So you have to.
I think you muted.
So
Yeah.
you can you hear me now?
Yeah.
So you have to have science to take up nutrition.
Mhm.
But so in masters, but then when you come to masters, I had a lot of people who had done biochemistry, botany, physiology, BSc in different science colleges, who came back to take nutrition in their masters.
Okay. So, what are the other branches that one can pursue once they get into this field?
Yeah. So what I spoke mainly is about the degree college. I'm talking
Correct.
mainly about the degree course. So there's an undergraduate course, then there's a master's course, after which, because for a PhD, you need to have a master's.
Yeah.
And after that, you can go on to, after your master's, you can go on to do your PhD. But even for your PhD in nutrition and a nutrition related topic, you can still have done a basic master's in physiology, especially biochemistry and physiology is something that's very, very important. I think people who are joining, if you could mute yourself, that would be useful.
Yeah, I just did that. Yeah. Okay.
But of course, there are certificate courses, and I think it's a good opportunity to speak about that. There are certificate courses in nutrition. There are diploma courses, like you can finish your undergraduate. You don't want to do a master's. There's something called a diploma course. It's called a PG diploma course in dietetics. But
Okay.
after that, you have a 9 month internship in a reputed hospital, for after which you can be called a registered dietitian. There's an exam you give,
Okay.
and you can be a registered dietitian. Nowadays, RD, that's called RD, is very, very important to work in a hospital. If you need to be taken seriously, you need to be a registered dietitian.
Right.
And that for that, even though even after a master's, generally masters, they still consider them without an RD because you've done a 2-year more full-fledged course. But an RD is getting more and more compulsory, registered dietetics course, because you do a lot of clinical dietetics there, where you're basically planning menus and diets for people who are ill, right? So you need to know how to plan a diet with a 1 gram salt. It's easy to just give out, dole out diets to people, which what most quacks do. And that's where I'm coming from, because, in this time of Corona, there are a lot of these quacks who have spruced up, everywhere, because it's become an online world. So they have no degree in nutrition whatsoever. They would have tried and tested some diet on themselves, lost some kgs, but they have no understanding of physiology, no understanding of human anatomy, no understanding of biochemistry, but they'll be busy giving advice to people about how to lose, and there's no one size fits all.
Absolutely.
So each one is different. So if you go to a qualified nutritionist or a qualified clinical dietetics person, they will look at your height, weight, what you eat, your family history of diseases, things like that, and then prescribe a nutrition plan which suits you. It cannot be that everyone follows the same nutrition plan that one person followed and lost 5 kgs weight. It doesn't work that way. So people have to be aware, because there are a lot of these guys, and I specifically call, all these social media influencers that they call themselves. The maximum you see will be in this line. And they are, for me, nothing but quacks. They're not influencing anyone. If they're influencing them, they're influencing them in the wrong way. So I think people need to be aware that you check the professional, check their qualification before you go and pay sums of money to them, and get some plan which is not sustainable. When you go to a nutritionist or a qualified professional, you will get a sustainable plan. With them, you will get this short-term goals plan, and people are happy because they would have lost 10 kgs, but they don't realize what effect
because now
on their
losing
body.
weight and getting into these keto diet and intermittent fasting has become the fad, right?
Yeah, it's a fad. And it's become more during Corona. So there's no two ways about that, because it's become an online world. So people are more and more interested in just doing that. Yeah.
Right. So what is the minimum requirement for a student to get into this field? Do they have a cutoff, like 50% in their 12?
75. I think it's become 70 now. It's 70 to 75, if I'm not mistaken, because the competition has increased, definitely. Of course, there are many more colleges also come up. But if you want to study in one of the good colleges, the cutoff is high. And in masters and all, it's just like any. So when I did my there are just 10 students in masters. So you will have 400 students, 350 students applying, and in the end, only 10 get selected in masters.
Oh, wow.
In the dietetic, in the PG diploma dietetic course, which I was saying, that allows you to, I think that goes till 25 to 30 students. But again, there are a lot of people applying for it.
Okay.
And the little bigger universities, max they go to 15 people. Yeah, they don't do masters is typically a very small number,
Okay.
and because you need to have guides to do your thesis and things, so big numbers are not taken for masters.
Okay.
So that's how it is. And there are, of course, as I said, a lot of certificate courses as ad hoc, but you need
Mhm.
to have this basic degree before you go on to do those certificate courses.
So the certificate course is after the degree.
Yeah, because they are very specific. So there is a certificate course on gut nutrition. There's a certificate course on brain nutrition. There are a lot of these universities who have come up with curriculum. See, because we
Uh-huh.
learn everything, we do learn disease wise in your
Mhm.
TY and things. Even I have planned my diets and done all that, and we have even cooked it. So that's one of the main things that why I keep saying is you have to go to a qualified professional, because if they've done the qualified course,
Mm.
we I remember in my TY we have, and even in my masters, one of that you have a nutrition class
Mhm.
where the clinical dietetics class it's called, where you
Mhm.
plan diets. They'll give you a case study and they'll say
Okay.
Mr. X had hypertension, has blah blah blah, this problem, he has a family history, he has this, he has that, he's a Gujarati, and they'll give you. So we have to look at the religion, we have to look at what are their things, what are their allergies, everything, and you have to
Okay.
plan a diet for that disease.
Mhm.
And secondly, you don't just plan it and give it out. You have to go and cook it also. So if I'm
Oh,
saying
wow.
1,200, I have to go and figure how to cook, because we should know how it tastes, right? You just
Yeah.
simply palate if it's palatable or not doesn't make, so which is what people don't understand. They don't do that. They just plan one
Right.
diet and give. They'll say,
Right.
isme shakkar kam dal do, mix kale and mix broccoli and make one juice and drink. They must have never drunk it in their life themselves to know what is the problem with that
Right.
juice. But it's easy to just suggest, right, to people. So
Right.
we would have, if I make a concoction or I'm suggesting something like that, and I would have broken down. So when I'm preparing a diet plan for somebody with a specific disease, I would say with their age group, with everything, I would be given a specific calories. I'll say this diet will give you so much protein, so much
Mhm.
carbs, so much micronutrients, so much, so much calcium, so much this, and then I'm cooking and serving and seeing whether these dishes actually come up to that or not.
Right.
So
Right.
that much detailing goes in when you actually do a proper nutrition degree.
Okay. Okay. So then how does one gain experience in this field? Once, the student says, okay, let me get into the nutrition field, nutrition science, then, only you said certain certifications give you that internship, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, so internship you can get. So see what happens is, let me get into the scope first. So
yeah.
after TY, you get internships in gyms, as a dietitian, where the
Okay.
gym where it is be typically weight loss diets. You're not going to get much
Absolutely.
more than that.
Yeah.
Ideal is to work in a hospital. You could
Mm-hmm.
be a single specialty hospital, or
Right.
you could go to multi specialty hospital where you get more experience.
Mm-hmm.
So something like KEM in Bombay, they have actually departments. So we would be on rotation in the kidney department, then go to the respiratory department, then go to, so different. So you get experience of different type of patients.
Okay.
Then so that's one type you can work. You can work in NGOs who work
Yeah.
towards midday meals or
Mm-hmm.
bulk cooking, but something to do with the nutrition. It's not a catering service, but
Right.
it is. Yeah, and so you can work, and when you work in the kitchen, then of course you can work in the hotel industry where also you
Yes.
look at diet plans and stuff.
Absolutely.
And it's so we have gone and visited as part of internship or as part of the studies. They would take you to the flight caterers. They would take you to the airline
Mm-hmm.
industry. They would
Okay.
take us to a hospital kitchen and show us how it works in a hospital. So we
Mm-hmm.
have gone to visited many hospitals. I wouldn't say names, and visited many 5 stars and 7 stars hotels, and see
Mm-hmm.
how the kitchen works, and how the whole, right from procurement of
Mm-hmm.
stuff to from procurement of things to actual execution of a dish, how it
Oh,
works in a
wow.
hospital versus an airline industry, and how these meals are packed for an airline industry. And then so they're called flight kitchens versus a
Mm-hmm.
5 star 7 star hotel who serves the food, and how much is left over, how it's wasted, how clean their kitchens really are, and
Mm-hmm.
where they really use different dekchis for veg and non-veg. We think
Okay.
everything is prim
Okay.
and proper just because the hotel is supposed to be a bigger type, but it's not always so. So you see everything, with your own eyes, and
It's
you're
very
allowed to
detailed.
question.
It's very, very
Yeah,
detailed.
yeah, you're allowed to question. You can ask your, because as students you don't have any fear, so you would ask the questions to the chef or the management, and things like that. I remember we went to a hospital, and there was one big rat running in the, and we were like, what the hell, you all are supposed to be a hospital, how can you have a rat running in the kitchen of that hospital where you're serving patients? And it was very embarrassing to the main doctor who was showing us around along with this, and they had a big issue after that. So so these are the things that you get exposure to. You get small internship. You're supposed to do 2-month internships.
Mhm.
So these are the different places, and of course research takes some more time, working in a research organization, because in an undergraduate level it's a little different. It totally depends on your passion and whether you have a little mindset for research.
Mhm.
Otherwise, typically at that time you're working in hospitals or catering industries or gyms and things like that to get exposure on diets mainly.
Okay. So typically, well, the question is how well do they pay you, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that is where there is a lot of thinking in terms of parents not wanting the children to go get into this. Because they always feel that it's not a very well paying job, right? And
So there is a lack. You see, what happens is, I think again the picture has really changed a lot. So when we started, we were paid peanuts. Okay,
right.
so another line which I would say you can move from after your masters, especially also is, see, after undergraduate level, this opportunities are still limited. You
Mhm.
can find your way. You can work in a baker, a bakery, or different things
Okay.
that depends on your passion, where you want to take up,
Mhm.
and how entrepreneurial. I have a lot of friends who are entrepreneurs now. They have started their own nutri kitchens and
Mhm.
coming up with their own health diets, and they're doing all that too. So it totally depends on your mindset and where your interest lies in. But
Mhm.
of course, after a master's, you have much more things open to you, or even after a PG, it's much more. Even after the PG diploma, it's open. There are more avenues open to you, and you can be a scientific writer. You can write website. There are a lot of people for content writing on
I
diseases
think
and
they can
things like
also
that
do
and
food
fantastic.
critiquing and things
Yeah,
like
yeah. So food critiquing requires a one more
a bit
course,
of
separate course.
journalism.
Yeah, so as I said, medical journalism, writing, so scientific
Okay.
writing as it's called, you can at
Mhm.
least write content on websites for papers, on stuff like that,
Mhm.
on different disease or what's happening, like on corona and related to immunity and nutrition and stuff like that. You would have seen a lot of dietitians publishing articles
Right.
related to it. So you get that kind of. So in fact, my first job after masters, though I was very keen on research, I'd given my JRF and things like that, but the first job was with a insurance firm where I went into scientific content writing, and this is what in 2001 and sorry 2000. So I got 10,000, which was not bad at all for a monthly
Yeah.
salary in
Yeah.
2000.
So when you
So
say
right now,
scientific, sorry to interrupt, when you say scientific content writing, what does it entail?
so scientific content writing is there are two. So one is like for a website that is for lay people to
Mhm.
understand about disease, to understand about nutrition, put it from their perspective. Because
Okay.
see, in the end, it's still technical, right? The writing is
Right.
technical, so it's called technical. I understand in the IT field they're called technical writers.
Yes.
So it's a technical writing which is made a little more simplified for the lay public.
Hmm.
Scientific writing is if you work in a journal, it has to be still scientific. You help people write scientific articles. So it's a little more jargonish and a little more technical. But when I was writing it for the website, I had to simplify it and put it out for the layperson to understand. So that's what I was doing. So that's now United Healthcare now, Servipas. So then I worked with them for almost 1.5 years, and it was good fun. There's a lot of exposure because you meet
Yeah.
doctors, you interview people, and you find to figure out what the person wants. And so it was for doctors' point of view, patients' point of view, and things like that. But coming to research, which is what I mainly
Mhm.
do. So this is all about hospital and giving you a base.
Yeah. Yeah.
You really need to build. So one thing I always say is for research is you need to have passion, because
Mm.
research is not really, I'm sorry to disappoint, but it's not a very high paying job.
Yeah.
But you have to have a lot of passion. You have to write no to you should have a lot of scientific writing content. You need to write proposals, you need to write papers, but it's a lot of thrill because you're making a difference to society. Make
Mm.
projects which make a difference to people's lives, and of course it has its own fame and a lot of paper publications. There are conference presentations, you meet a lot of people, a lot
Mhm.
of doctors, you're in that network a lot.
Mm.
But it also goes without saying that you have to it's if you're going for the money, research is not what I would suggest for you.
And I think
For the
also one
money,
is patience to get into the field of
yeah.
research.
Yeah. And
right?
see, research is vast, right? Like now I have chosen my field as diabetes. Now there are so many diseases and lifestyle, and I'm
Mm.
more into dealing with people. I'm not doing lab work. I'm doing more with actual community trials. So I'm,
Mm-hmm.
people are not the same. They have behavior thing. I can't, experiment on them just directly. There is consent. There's a lot of stuff that I have to go through, a lot of ethical issues. So, but I'm doing stuff on prevention. So there are always around lifestyles, about nutrition and physical activity, and changing a person's behavior is not easy.
Yeah.
So that's where we are coming from. So when you do research, there's a huge gamut. There are lots of institutes and research. Of course, most people after doing a PhD end up becoming a professor in some institute, or you're a full-term researcher like me with an NGO. And
Mhm.
we do teaching in our own way. We're teaching students. We're doing a lot of talks. We keep having conferences where we're imparting knowledge and sharing our work. But most people abroad would be doing research, where being a professor, where they're training students at the same time. They're teaching students on public health and stuff like that. So though my base is nutrition, I did additional courses on public health, epidemiology, health, and now I'm in that post where I'm doing these kind of studies. Because in research, study design and all that is very, very important, and of course
Right.
statistics is very important. So you have to keep on upgrading your knowledge to
Mm-hmm.
know what is happening right now with what's the new software available and stuff like. So we do a lot of data analytics too, but it's
Okay.
all related to data sets of our studies and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But another thing here is, if you want, when you come to payment wise, the same thing. See, every corporate has a health vertical, right? So whether it's
Mm-hmm.
Accenture, whether it's Cognizant,
Yes.
they all have health verticals.
Mm-hmm.
And what they do, there's something called contract research organizations, CROs,
Mm-hmm.
where they collate multi-centric trials and they look at the data analysis of these trials. Like there are companies like Quest and things like that, where
Okay.
uh, they are always looking out for people who's good at stats, who has a little bit of public health background, epidemiology, nutrition background, any kind of science background, where they would be keenly interested in a nutritionist is if it's a nutrition study, right? Because a nutritionist will understand the data better. See, data comes with variables and things. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I can't, as a nutritionist, if you give me an aerodynamics data set, I have no clue what to do with it.
Absolutely.
I don't know what's the input, what's the outcome, nothing. But you, as a nutritionist or as an epidemiologist, if you give me anything to do with any disease, it might not be diabetes, it might be
Mm-hmm.
cancer, it might be respiratory, but I still understand anatomy, I still understand physiology, right?
Right.
So they are looking out for, and they pay very well. Of course, they take a, do a lot of, make you do a lot of work also, but they
Mm-hmm.
do pay well. They pay very well. So it's almost
To
three
apply
times
to
of what
these
you'll work.
companies, sorry, to apply to these
Mhm.
companies, do the students have to be a postgraduate, or after
Yeah, yeah.
undergraduate, do they also
Postgraduate
mostly
is
exposed?
preferable. Yeah, because you have to do data, you have to have some experience in data analytics, right? You have
Ah.
to have some experience in research. So in masters you write a thesis and things like that. So
Mm-hmm.
with that, I think you will have a clue about what, and then they'll tell you to upgrade your knowledge on statistics and things like that. So you can, of course, after a PhD it's the best. If you don't want to get into become a professor and you think you've had enough after a PhD, because getting a PhD itself is a long thing. So after that, if you want to get straight into a corporate world and move into this, I've had a lot of friends who moved into corporates, and they're doing quite well for themselves as health verticals. So it's a difference. How I look at it is, we keep getting those job offers all the time because we have enough experience and more in that now, running these kind of trials. But what happens there is, you do not plan the study. It's somebody's study where you are just supervising the execution, and of course you're doing the analysis.
Mm-hmm.
But the kind of work I'm doing as a scientist, I'm doing top to bottom.
Okay.
The proposal is mine, the idea is mine. Of course, we work as a team, but then it's a topic which I have thought of, as an aim, as an objective, the methodology. Then we have brainstormed as a team, come up with the right protocol, applied for funding, written a whole fledged
Mm-hmm.
proposal, applied for funding. Then you implement it in the field, and then you see the results, you see the difference you're making to people's life. Then you analyze the results, then you publish a paper. So right from start to end, we are doing,
Okay.
which
Okay.
you don't have to do in a corporate, but they're bigger numbers, and they're just giving you a work, and they'll be giving you a data set, or they'll give you a project which you have to supervise or things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get into public policies and that kind of a forte, then how do they move from the this typically science kind of an environment, right?
So a master's in public health will serve you well,
Uh-huh.
and then you have to start looking out for internships which deal in companies or in NGOs or in government sectors which deal with public policy.
Okay.
So you get the experience there. Of course, scientific communication or a paper on
Mm-hmm.
that particular topic will will stand you in good stead. You should collaborate with people working in that area, try to get into that for an internship first, and then try to get a job there. And from there, you can even get into scientific journalism, which is also huge, science journalism, where people write on policies, but related to health.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
and it's a journalism in its own. So, there are a lot of things. So there are crazy options. There are just crazy options available. You can keep moving wider in that aspect, depending on your research.
Okay. So is there a minimum experience required to get into research?
For research, I think after masters is good enough.
Immediately.
With more experience, yeah. You have something called, in India, you have something called the state eligibility test and national eligibility test for lecturership, and along with that, you get something called the junior research fellowship and the senior research fellowship,
Okay.
JRF and SRF. Which one you can? There's age cutoffs, and they give you stipend. If you get JRF, immediately you should try and apply for a PhD, because a lot of the government institutes will ask for that, for JRF.
Okay.
The private institutes will not ask. But what happens if you have a JRF? You're not dependent on the host institute to pay your salary. The government is paying you.
Okay. Okay.
You just need to get a topic to do your research, and they will pay you as a fellow.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but when you come to a private institute, the advantage is you may not need a JRF, because they will already have a project where they'll appoint you as a PhD, and you get your work done, and there'll be a salary component for you anyway, funded, accommodated in the project.
Okay. Okay. So now with this pandemic, I think there is a lot of demand for epidemiologists, right? So if a student wants to get into this field, because, I think going forward, this is going to be a great demand. So how do you think a student can plan his or her career path, starting from 12th standard, once he or she finishes 12th?
True. So I would also say is, from the pandemic began, epidemiologists, yes, they were dearth, but there was a dearth of a lot of allied specialists. As I said, nutritionists, nurses, everything. And epidemiology, a lot of people call them surgeon, but then you need to have a very thorough background, especially study methodology background, to be an epidemiologist. Because they study trends, we study prevalence, we study incidence. You need to know what all that is. By being, every researcher is not an epidemiologist. So you have to have a little background, some kind of a degree, additional course done. Of course, an MSc epidemiologist, PhD epidemiology is hardcore epidemiology. But even like a person like who did nutrition, then we did allied courses, we did some extra things on public health and this, and eventually we are doing that kind of work only. So now, after 15 years of experience, I can call myself an epidemiologist, because I've done that kind of work. So I'm not an MSc epidemiology. But from a degree point of view, I would still call myself MSc Public Health Nutrition, because that's what my main degree is. But over time, having done all these prevalence incidence studies and follow-up longitudinal studies, I have papers, basically comes down to, I have publications to show I've done this kind of work, and hence I can call myself that. But otherwise, epidemiology is not cakewalk. You have to be very sure of what you're talking about, trends. And so when people, even doctors would predict, I said, till you have that experience in epidemiology, not every doctor knew about where corona is going. So everyone was just saying, abhi first wave hai, third wave hai, second wave hai. They were just generally guessworking, because the guys who got that right were only the epidemiologists, because they actually study the temporal trends of a disease. A doctor is just looking news here, there, and, so now, I'm sure he knows about the treatment, or he may know about that. But nobody could predict. That's why there were a lot of guesses going wrong. And only there were the bunch of epidemiologists who stood the ground and said, this is when the first, second, and it was their predictions which came right.
So I'm a little curious to know the difference between a virologist and an epidemiologist. Are they?
A virologist studies viruses. That's it. So an epidemiologist studies the epidemic. So, so you just break it. So epidemiology is epidemic.
It's about the epidemic.
Virology is study. So study of the epidemic. Virologist is a study of the virus. So it was the combination of an epidemiologist and virologist, like Javed Hamid, the big guy, he was a virologist, but he's also done work on epidemiology. Then there were this National Institute of epidemiologists who were then giving their, things about the trends and, how it's going up, when it's going to come down, when is the wave going to hit and stuff like that. So that's the main difference between a virologist and an epidemiologist.
Okay. And are there any collaborations happening between, the Indian nutrition science space and, the other countries, offering?
There is.
Yeah.
There is a lot of collaboration happen. Of course, it happens more at an institute level, not at an individual level.
Mhm.
If you're tied up with a good institute, you will always see collaborations, and collaborative work teaches you a lot. Like
Yes.
from my experience, I would say we Indians are not disciplined, and even in my PhD, no matter how much I've written a 200, 300 page thesis, uh, documentation is not something that comes naturally to us. We
Mhm.
do a lot of work,
Mhm.
but we don't write or point it out down every time. We love to just summarize the whole thing. The same
Mhm.
thing I've seen my Caucasian friends who would, or researchers who would do, but they would be doing one fourth the work, but can produce a 100-page document on that one fourth work. We would
Okay.
have done 100% work, and we will produce one-page document on that work. So documentation is something where we've learned a lot from collaboration. So having SOPs for everything, having checklists for everything, they're very, very particular about documentation. And I think that has helped our processes also a long, long way. It shows, it makes your research also more very accurate, I would say, and it very precise actually. And what happens is also, if somebody wants to take this forward next time, it's a
Mhm.
nice thing. It's already there. The documentation is there.
Okay.
So a lot of things, collaboration really takes you a lot of way. Of course, it helps in funding.
Mm.
Having, how much of we talk about racism? Yes, having a foreign name on a paper, on a
Definitely.
proposal from an NIH or a UKRI or MRC carries weight.
Okay. Okay. And when it comes to research, how would you say that India is, equipped with all these research infrastructure, or is it good for the student to look outside, do the research, and then come back and contribute to society?
So, my personal take would always be, again, I think India is great for undergraduate.
Mm-hmm.
Postgraduate, unfortunately, I didn't get my chance to go. I was very keen to do my PhD abroad. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, you should come back and serve the country. There's a lot
Of
of
course.
opportunities to work here. There
Yeah.
is a lot of work that can be done. In fact, you won't believe most of the grants of UKRI, that's of UK, as well as Canada, as well as any European nation like Germany also offers a lot of fellowships and things like that. And
Mhm.
of course, the US, their maximum, the money is for LMICs. You just need to have a US collaborator for the namesake, but the work is all happening in LMICs and India primarily. A lot of work happens here.
Okay.
But if you get that education of post graduation, especially in research, especially a PhD, the drill and the grill that you get there is still lacking in India. That's my personal view, but I know a lot of friends would agree to it. It's very few institutes who offer you very good PhD courses degree, where they learn about methodology, you learn about this and all that. A lot of my PhD, I learned a lot on my own. I got a good, my guide gave me a lot of free hand, due to which I could work a lot on my own. I learned a lot on the field myself,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have loved to have somebody supervising more and, giving me a little more courses to go through, a grind, a little more methodology and stuff like that, which not all universities offer.
So, which
So
are the
it's great
universities
to
that are good here in India for research?
many are there. See, Mumbai, it totally depends on the subject, Rama. I can't
Okay.
say much further this. So Delhi University, Mumbai University, each and have their colleges, whether it's Gujarat, you have MS Baroda, who
Mhm.
offers very good nutrition. You have NIN in Hyderabad. They do some fantastic work. They have fantastic lab work. They are now, but of course, over time it has changed. And the last 4 years, in fact, thanks to the pandemic, there are a lot of new things that has changed.
Okay.
And these things have really strengthened. The collaborations have strengthened the kind of courses that have been offered. There's a lot of changes happening in the education sector,
Mhm.
because it was a forced thing that happened due to the pandemic, but there have been a lot of changes that has happened. And I think it will just do well in India now. People, they have realized that we're losing our students, because it's very difficult to study abroad and then come back, right? Very few have that will thing to come back. Then they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, might as well continue. Obviously, the profs there also, they're very smart. A
Right.
PhD there, they will say, then they find a smart cookie, they're like, why should we leave them? Then they'll offer them a postdoc, then keep
Mm.
pushing them something, offer, finish this project and go, then you get stuck there.
Yeah.
So like I'll give a simple example. Like in a
Mhm.
PhD abroad, how it is the students can choose their guide. So if
Okay.
a
They choose the
student,
guide, is
yeah,
it?
they can choose their guide. So your guides, I've had guides, I know of my mentor who has pitched for a student. They're like three guides fighting for a student. That will never happen in India.
Mhm.
The guide will like, get lost. You want to do PhD with me, you do, otherwise you go off. I have enough students waiting for me.
Mhm.
So the numbers are less, same like just like how we have very bad, sad numbers of doctors. That's why allied professionals like nutrition dietitians are very, very important to train, diabetes
Right.
educators, because they cut the doctor's job by, almost a
But
little more than a half,
I
I
think a
would say,
doctor cannot
because
even
they can take the
function
medical
completely
history,
without
they
the
can give a
support.
nutrition background. Yeah,
Right.
and the doctor then just has to focus on the main thing, the main issue.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and a lot is lifestyle. These are all chronic diseases driven by lifestyle.
Mhm.
And honestly, the doctor is not trained on it. The doctor doesn't have a subject in nutrition. I think in the second
Right.
year, third years, what I hear, they have one Jujupi paper in it. That's it. They don't even learn about it. So how can you go and ask your doctor, can I eat apple? Can I eat this? Can I eat that? The doctor is not. He'll just say something because he has to tell you.
Right.
He's not really interested in giving you that advice. So ask the right person the right question. That's the thing.
Right. So, what are the important skill sets a student needs to get into this field? There should be some basic skill sets they should be, equipped
It's
with.
the base as others. I think, see, you have to have the interest in whatever you're doing. So
Right.
I can understand as a 10th standard this, even I was not, but then once I was sure of nutrition as a subject, I
Hmm.
was very keen on it, because simply because I'm a foodie, I like what I like to eat. I thought I should know a little more about how
Hmm.
what that food is doing inside my body. That was
Right.
my basic mindset. That's all.
Right.
I was
Hmm.
like, what happens to this khana inside my body? What that particular food does to me, and how it manifests into a disease or does
Hmm.
not. So those were my basic, it's called a, as they say, it's just called a scientific you should have that quest to answer a few questions, and I think that should be it. I and as I always say, for research, passion is very important. For any job, passion is very important. You have to be passionate about what you do.
Yeah, that goes for
Otherwise,
any
it's a
field,
waste.
right? If
Yeah, that goes for any field. That absolutely goes for any field, and a lot for research, I would say, simply because it's a sustainable thing, right? You can't
Hmm.
just let go. You'll be doing a
Right.
project. Things don't always go according to your way, but you
Hmm.
cannot say, "Arey, now this is gone case project. Chalo, I'm getting funding for it. I have to get papers out, so I have to push. I have to maintain that passion and see, even if I'm making a difference to one person's life rather than 10, I should still push for it." So that
Right. So even if a child is an introvert, it doesn't matter because when you do funding
doesn't
and
matter.
all that, you got to approach people and,
No, 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 no. So if you're studying, so even if you're an intro, I don't think personality type matters at all.
right. Okay.
You are just sitting and applying to funding to some stranger. Of course, you might have to face an interview at some point of time.
Mm-hmm.
And if that person is smart enough, even if they're an introvert, I'm sure they'll face it. So that's not a problem. It's not a marketing job, right? You're not selling your product.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you can't
Correct.
be an entrepreneur if you're an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be difficult if you're going around marketing something. But as a researcher, as a dietitics, you're just talking to a patient.
Right.
And that, if you're passionate about your job, you might be an introvert, an extrovert. I'm sure you'll get it done. That's not a problem.
Okay. Okay. So any other, ideas or anything you would like to share with, I don't know how many are students here and how many are counselors. I'll anyway open the floor for any questions because I
I
think,
think you can just ask them to ask me, because I've covered most of it and I've
yeah,
given my experience. So, yeah, anything
yeah,
people want
I
to
just
ask,
open
feel
the
free.
floor for questions. If any of you have any questions, you can just unmute yourself and I think you can just ask Dr. Ranjani any questions related to, you know, the course, the curriculum, the career path, or because she's given a lot of clarity in this. So I don't think there should be a doubt in that area. But nevertheless, if you have any other questions in this nutrition space, yes, Akansha.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
It's a very nice session, ma'am, and thank you for that knowledge. And actually I teach 11th and 12th students home science in my
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
school, and there are students who are from the arts background, and they have taken this home science as a subject in 11th and 12th.
Mm-hmm.
So after listening your views about it, so I was just little worried about it, that how I can guide them then if they want to opt this course, BSc Home Science in upcoming next years. So how can I guide them that they are not from the science background?
So let me understand this, Akansha. You're saying, you see, arts they would take only 11th standard, right? So you're saying they're right now in arts background and they want to do home science after 12th, is it?
Yes, ma'am.
Acha. So, are you from India?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, as far as my knowledge goes, but there is something called, not for nutrition at least, I think interior designing, they could do a diploma kind, which goes into, there's something called commercial arts, interior designing, and there are some 3-4 such diploma courses which you can do even after 12,
Okay.
which a person with an arts background can take up. That's what my understanding is so far. As I said, I am not aware of art students being allowed in the first year. I can definitely cross check and get back with Rama, but I am quite sure they're not. I think a science is required.
Okay, okay. And ma'am, as of my knowledge, I guess during my graduation, there was options for that they can take pass course. The art students can take pass course, and the science students can take only honors course, BSc honors.
What course? I didn't get that. Sorry. What course art
There is
students can
two
take?
courses available in Delhi University for the home
Okay.
science: BSc
Okay.
pass course and BSc honors course. So honors course is only the students who have this science background in 11th and 12th,
Mm-hmm.
and the pass course students they should have the arts background students can opt for the pass course, BSc pass course in home science.
How do you spell that? I'm not getting that. BSc, what course that is?
BSc pass course
PAS, is
and
it? I didn't get that.
PASS, yes, ma'am.
Pass course. Okay. I have not heard. I'm sorry. I don't know about it. I really don't know about it. But were they allowed to take up nutrition as a major? Because as I said, arts background can still work for a research management and psychology, maybe if they have taken psychology as their one of their subjects in 11th and 12th. But I think for nutrition, it might not work.
Yes, ma'am, because yes, as of my knowledge, also they can take a human development and specialization in
Correct.
masters
Yes.
and
That's
communication
what.
and development and resource
Exactly.
management.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Because nutrition and textiles arts, because textiles also needs a lot of chemistry. So that's why. These are the two subjects which science is a little more hardcore.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, it will be really grateful to me that if you can find that the students from that have this art background. So what
I'll
are
find
other
out. I'll
opportunities?
find out if there are any changes. Definitely, definitely. If they want to move in here. Because I had a friend, I remember science only she moved. Yeah, 11th. They didn't, art was not allowed that time. As I said, it's been a while. Let me check.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.
No problem. No problem.
Yeah. Any other questions? Shruti, Ruthvi, Suman, Nandini, any other questions with regard to, the subject or even otherwise? There's a great opportunity to ask Dr. Ranjani. She's really, spared time amidst her real busy schedule, I must say. Okay, if there's no questions, then yeah, we would like to wind up then.
You
I would
can
like to
email me them,
thank,
Rama. No problem.
I would like to
Anytime.
thank
Thank
you
you. Thank
from
you.
the bottom of my heart for such an informative session and for taking time off from your very busy schedule. And I must say this is a perfect timing because, we're talking particularly appropriate at a time when we are recovering from the pandemic, right? So I was
Correct.
hoping to see more students, though a lot of them had given their names. I'm surprised that they didn't turn up despite my, reminders. Probably it's, IPL time. I didn't
Could be.
realize,
True.
Saturday it is
Yeah, Saturday
IPL.
evening. Yes, yes, absolutely. It
So
was. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think your presence and your wise words have really helped magnifying our cause in the best possible way. So all thanks
Thank
to
you.
your word, enlightening words. And I'm sure it was a very valuable session for whoever have attended this. So thank you so much, Dr. Ranjani.
Thank you, Rama. Thank you, everyone, for
Yeah.
hearing in and at least coming in. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.